So it's so ceremonial, event-driven, and should I say fire brigade approach. Like, what can we do in the meantime so that we sustain this, especially for HIV/AIDS? Because we can't, well, I mean, nothing can be totally eliminated. Something that has hit the world, we can't like kick it out, I know. But you're welcome. You're on to Kaftan Television Network and you are watching The Conversations today with me, Mikki Attah, and it's my pleasure to be hosting you. On The Conversations today, we have a conversationalist who has been described widely in Nigeria as the go-to person for anything media development as well as social integration. Okay, he is by name Aro Leonard, and he is the CEO, president, and founder of Klevaro Communications. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Conversations today. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's good to be here. My first time on Kaftan TV.
Wow. If it was the time I was on radio, we'd have to ring a bell every first time I we hail. Okay, I hope that's going to be the first of many, though.
Definitely.
So every time we call
I'm surprised that I've not been here since.
Yeah, I'm surprised based on your... Anyway, you're too busy with your international consultations from what I see. All the major outlets. It's my pleasure to let you know he has been a one-time director with the BBC Media Aid, where he was in charge of media development as well as external relations, amongst so many other things. I'll break them down to you one by one. But right now, he said to me that I should actually emphasize on the media development as well as fill me in on the other part.
Social transformation.
Social transformation. And you know why? Because he actually worked on one of the biggest projects we've had in Nigeria, which was a program, which was like, what would they call these kind of magazine programs, okay, for the youth, which was titled Flavor. And that ran for a long time, and it had to do with youth reproductive action. Now, that's a sensitive topic and one that most, not even the government, parents shy away from. But he handled it expertly and cleverly and titled it Flavor. I want you to tell us all about the making of Flavor and how it became so successful.
Okay, now I didn't make Flavor. It was a BBC World Service Trust then.
Okay, the BBC program. World Service Trust program. Wow, that's huge.
Yeah,
that's nothing to sneeze about.
So it's BBC World Service Trust that later transformed to be BBC Media Action.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was with them for about 14 years.
Wow.
And I produced that particular program for 3.5 years. I was the second producer. The first was my good friend, Perry, that's his name, Perry During, a very, very talented and creative guy. The best guy I know in this country when it comes to, handling softwares like Adobe Audition and editing, a very mad guy. Okay. So I took over from him. Yeah. But before then, I was working with Internews Network, and I produced what was used by DFID then to test the ground for the coming of Flavor.
Okay.
So I did that project even before coming into BBC Media Action, and that was the first packaged program in Nigeria that dealt with reproductive health for young people.
Okay, what was that one called?
It was called Just Gisting.
Just gisting. Yeah. Was it a television, radio, or a combined package? Radio.
Yeah.
Okay, because when I heard just gisting, it sounded like something I've actually heard before on radio, but I just said, let me ask you first. Oh, that's fantastic. So you're the brain behind Just Gisting.
Yeah.
Okay, pleased to meet you in person. Okay, so tell us how did that morph to Flavor? They overheard it like I did, and you had this phone call. Hello, are you Aro Leonard? Okay. The BBC would like to see how did it morph?
No, okay, let's say the thinking or the thought behind Flavor, even though not with the name, but
Yes.
reproductive health program to be done by the BBC was already in place.
Okay.
You know, and they were part of a project funded by the DFID, which is now UK Aid.
Yes.
And SFH, Society for Family Health, was part of that project. It was a large project that dealt with reproductive health issues for young people. You know, as at then, and this was 2004.
Right.
As at then, the rate of HIV infection was increasing drastically in the country, and something needed to be happened. At that time, the broadcast space in Nigeria, there were restrictions about what you could talk about. So you could not really talk about these reproductive health issues.
Really?
Yes. When you want to go down, deep down, like mention those keywords,
Yes.
you know, and we know that most HIV transmission is done through sex, but you can't talk about that on radio, and somebody will clamp down on you, and it was going. So if you want to reduce the spread of HIV, you need to get people talking about it so people could know about it and know what to do.
Absolutely.
That was it. So I was then, I started a youth program on Aro Radio, not far from you guys here. It was called Campus Life.
Okay.
Yeah, but unlike other Campus Life programs in school, this one was totally different, because I went into the station to start the program so I could help young people not make the mistakes I made. And as at then, I knew that ICT was going to be the next wave of that would transform a lot of things in the world. So I made that program to be ICT driven. So I had finished my master's then. I came in and I said, let me do this to help young people. And so I started it. And then with that program, I applied for inter-news training. Everybody applied, and 10 of us were selected. And even though I'd been in the media space even before I went to the university, but this was actually my first training on real reporting, program production, and all that. And we were trained. And after the training, we were given assignments, taken to Akwanga to do some reports. And I did this wonderful HIV report about the Clippers using the stadium.
Right.
Yeah, so you wonder what's the link between the stadium and HIV transmission. So I did that. And then, guess what? I went back home, normally, like a normal human being. And then the inter-news guys called me a couple of weeks later and said, hey, if you could be this creative to do this, and you do a lot of things, creative things with your Campus Live show, then we think you should be able to produce what we want to do. We need you to design this thing that does not exist in Nigeria. So the idea was, since you can't talk about these things openly on air, you have to look for a way around it where you creatively talk about, they think you're talking about something else, and you're actually talking about reproductive health issues. So I produced that, and it was massive success. My
question now is, how did you then overcome the barrier? Because now I talk about it, sometimes like on our female programs and stuff like that, we talk about it.
Yes.
For instance, sex for marks, we talk about it, stuff like that. So how was that transition able to be made? I'm sure because of programs like yours, though.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that was the idea. So that's why it's a groundbreaking program.
Absolutely.
So it opens the airspace for, when you want to do such things, you don't just go bang. You have to go gradually.
Okay.
So for instance, first edition, we're talking about youth and change.
Okay.
And you wonder, and then we creatively link it. Now, if you bring the FBI, DSS, everybody to scan that script,
they won't find it.
You won't find it. But from the discussions, you think it's just follow-up questions. They are planned.
Yeah.
And then it comes out. And then people start talking about it. People start getting the knowledge. And then it keeps on improving. Right. Gradually. It's not, you don't come with a bang. You're going to get, you come with a bang, the NBC is going to bang you.
That's fantastic.
So you creatively link things up.
No wonder you're described as a media development expert, because that's exactly what we in the media are expected to do. The media is to set the conversation.
Exactly.
The media is to set the agenda. But you notice some people are shying away, but I'm very glad to see you are one who has taken the bull by the horn. Okay, apart from that, tell us other details. Was there any resistance, like from maybe parents or from the youths themselves? What was how was the reaction and the response and the acceptability? What was that like?
Well, when doing Just Gisting, it was acceptable because we were really very creative, and you wouldn't really find those things really coming out. Okay. But after Just Gisting, because the ground has been broken, now people can start, talking about it a little bit. So Flevaro was a little bit more. When I now got into the BBC, I actually first came in as a resource person when we were developing the program Flevaro.
Right.
To share my experience doing Just Gisting. Okay. Until later, when there was an opening, of course, now I applied and I got a job there. So I started by producing. You've seen on TV, you've seen some of all those on TV. My name is so, I'm HIV positive,
right,
and all that, and some of all those celebrity HIV. We call it spot. People call it jingle, SPOT.
Yes.
Is what we call it already. So I produced those ones. So those were the first things I did coming into the organization. Now, so a year later, I had to swap with Perry. So Perry moved to the spot, and then I moved to producing Flevaro. At this time, we needed to, because one beautiful thing about that organization is the amount of research that goes into everything that is done there. And that is why it always makes impact. So a lot of research is done. So as at this point, we needed to change the tone of the program a little bit and make it more to reach the poor and vulnerable a bit more. Okay?
Right.
So Flevaro was a bit more daring. Even though we still covered up a lot of things, for Flevaro we had to use a lot of slangs that were understood by the young people, the target audience,
right,
that you think the older ones won't understand. So we had to take it a step further,
all right,
where you could actually be saying those things, the older ones wouldn't know, but the people you're targeting know.
All right.
And so, but of course, get to know. Mm-hmm. I remember one day in church, one of my, I trained teenagers also on broadcasting. One of the ones I was training, she was about 12 years old then.
She wasn't a teenager then.
And she was about becoming a teenager. So I trained her when she was 12 years old. So I think when she was a couple of years later,
right,
she was now listening to Flevaro because she got interested in, I trained them how to produce programs then when she was 12. So a couple of years later, she had now loved, producing programs, listening to those kind of very creative programs. Yes. Today she's an international superstar.
Wow.
Her name is Tolu Akintaro.
Wow.
And then one day in church she goes and says, she told me her mom, she was listening to Flevaro, and her mom came and told her, never ever you listen to this program again. I'm telling you. And the mom did not know that the person who was producing the program was in the same church with her. So we had some stations also, because the Hausa version was Yatekene, which means what's up, sort of. And, there were resistance, about why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? But you see, the beauty about it is that when the research statistics came out, of course, the program the HIV response was coordinated by NACA, still coordinated by NACA.
Yes.
When the research came out a couple of months later,
right,
we saw that new infections had gone down.
Absolutely.
And that's how everybody now accepted it.
Like they say, nobody can argue with impact. So I find it crazy. Why are people so resistant to change? Whereas, there's trite cliches. The only constant thing in life is change. And in the first place, here you are faced with a pandemic. AIDS was a pandemic in most parts of Africa. you're faced with it and you're just ready to just continue with the same old way and expect new results. I think that no wonder you said you're into social transformation, because that is actually transformative. At least for
Exactly.
the fact that we can now listen and speak out, because now there's a body, a group, people living with AIDS, PLWs.
Yeah.
Before, if you were living with AIDS, you just lock yourself indoors and practically wait for death, for the HIV to become full-blown AIDS, to dry you up into a little broomstick, and then wait for your demise.
Today, you don't find people getting to that broomstick.
For goodness
Even in
sake,
the-
you don't need to.
because today,
you can live your full normal life, your complete lifespan. And in the first place, as time goes on, as the testings go on, the AIDS will even recede and leave you. If you're up and doing.
It's not going to leave, but it gets to the point. It gets to the point where the virus is now very low, so it might not even be able to infect
anyone else. So I mean, these are the things that people were run away, run into your cupboard. Your cupboard has nothing to help. And then, like I think you were saying, social transformation. Society does not even have anything to offer you. So if you're doing all you're doing to please society, society does not care about you. Always remember, you are the most important person to yourself and to the world. Okay, that was so interesting. You said it ran for 3.5 years.
No,
why the decision to end it?
It actually ran for more than that, from 2005 to 2012.
Okay, because I heard you saying
I produced it for 3.5 years.
Oh, okay.
And then I became a trainer. I started training broadcasters and all that. Other people took it up. 5 people produced the program after me.
Wow. Yeah. I'm happy to be talking to one of the 5. Okay, Aro, why the decision to end it? Because I would have thought, since the SDG plan is 2030, and such a program should tally in. Why would they decide to stop it? If I was a policymaker, I would want that program to run to 2030, which is in the first place, we just have 6 more years.
Okay, now let me put it like this. Now, the organization, such organizations, media development organizations, are not organizations, and projects they do are not projects that come to stay. They work with the Nigerian government, they work with broadcasters. So what they do is they share templates. So I come in and I show you, hey, this is how to do it. So you take it up from there.
Right.
So that was why in the process where that program was running, that's where I had to migrate to become a trainer. We trained a lot of broadcasters on how to produce those kind of youth programs, how to infuse reproductive health issues in already existing youth programs, on children's programs, on women program, girls program, family programs like that. We even train mainstream your regular OAPs, even though I don't like using that word that much, on how to infuse reproductive health issues in all that. So it's now left for you as an organization that has been trained to take it up. Now imagine Flavour was the most popular youth program
then in
Nigeria.
When are you coming to train us on Kaftan TV?
Well, when your management invites me. Well, I've trained a lot of people on this station in the past. A lot of them in the past on different platforms, even on that BBC Me Action then, when I was the head of media development.
Yes.
And privately on my own Klevaro Communications and Klevaro Center, because I still do a lot of media trainings today. So I've trained a lot of them. Some of them still in the organization.
All right. I wanted to ask, what's the role, do you think, of like all these religious, fixed religious organizations, the church, the mosque, because everyone is a member of something.
Yes.
And all this is still going on.
Yes, and that's the idea, and that's why we talk about these social transformation issues. You see, many times, just like I gave the example of the person in the church, you find these denials.
Right.
But it lives with us. And it's not just the HIV/AIDS we are talking about.
Right.
It's this same principle affects everything. When you talk about the drug users, even politics, the politicians. For instance, I'll give you an instance. There are times where in Nigeria they said, there will be this bloodbath, there will be blah, blah, blah during elections, last Anambra elections, they said blah, blah, blah. We did stuff. We did some media intervention, and several stations, courtesy the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, there was what was called the Media Peace Day and all that. Now, there were strategic things we did with the media. And then we saw what happened. The violence that people predicted did not come because the media took it up and did creative content. Now it's like this. Even a cooking program will be talking about some certain things. It's getting into you. You wouldn't know. But it begins to change your mindset.
Right.
And that's how the society begins to change.
Right.
So that's what we do with the media.
Okay.
You know. But you don't just, because there are some things, like take the HIV. A lot of people, when you hear the H, you don't need to hear I before the video, you run away.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you have to bring it into some really creative ways.
Right.
So it already gets into you
Right.
before you even realize it, and then you change.
Right.
So that's how we tackle all societal issues.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the government has not been able to tap into this power of the media to help to transform the society.
Yeah, and the society is actually the worst for it, because, like, if you were to, it's because you're seated. If we had somebody from the NDLEA seated here, he would give you frightful numbers about the drug permutation and drug use, and the number of people who are unable to get any rehabilitation. In the first place, for you to need rehabilitation, you should actually have had some preventive measures in the first place. Why not stop it? But we have this, like I would say, fire brigade approach to stuff. It has to happen, and then we have to. So things like this, like you said, social transformation are actually preventative measures for which I think you deserve kudos. In fact, if I was a president, I'd give you a national award.
Well, he's watching, and his aides are watching. I'm here, ready to serve.
National award.
I'm ready to serve.
All right. Can you tell us some of the other big, because you said you've handled, you're a consultant to very big national and international organizations. Okay. We've heard BBC. How about, which are the others, so we can...
Well, there are loads of others. Like what I do now, since leaving BBC Media Action in 2019. Now, while as head of media development, they were not only producing content and training broadcasters, we're also training CSOs. We're supporting CSOs with communication activities.
Like which?
You hear organizations like Yaga today, you know, and all those ones, Code, you know, the Action Aid people, so many of them, Kim Park. There are so many organizations that are doing a lot of work currently today. So BBC Media Action supported them. We even in training journalists, it's not about training on the journalistic skills. We usually first train them on thematic skills. Like now, I'm sure a lot of people know this name, Jide Ojo. You know, it's one of the most popular political analysts on TV, you know, in Nigeria today. So we bring in such kind of people, Larry Arogundade, you know, and all those guys. They are security experts. We pull them in. So they first train the journalists on thematic issues. Like even the training I did while at Internews, names like Omokudu Idogo, who is currently the MD of Society for Family Health, you know, they trained us on thematic issues. So you're already grounded on these issues even before you start applying those creative skills to now make those issues, you know, come out. So that's what we do. So leaving BBC Media Action, a lot of organizations don't know how to engage the media creatively, how to use the media to be able to cause this kind of transformation. So I took it up myself, let me say first as a voluntary thing, because sometimes before they start paying you for something, you need to make them see, you know, how valuable it is. So I was supporting different organizations, Society for Family Health, Action Aid, even the Federal Ministries, Environment, Humanitarian Affairs, of course, Ministry of Health. So then I also noticed that there were some issues under health, for instance, that are endemic to us, that I don't see a lot of international funding on those issues. And unfortunately...
Can you give us some examples?
Yeah. Unfortunately, our government usually waits for international organizations to come. We need to take the lead. Right. There are some things that are our problem. Malaria is our problem.
Right.
It's been eliminated in the West.
All right. Malaria. What
else? Sickle cell is our problem. Yeah. So those are two main areas that I've been supporting. So for a long time, since 2007, even, Uni Abuja, for instance, has one of the best sickle cell research centers in Africa. A lot of people don't even know that. It's led by Professor Unodu, Obiageli Unodu, one of the best brains for sickle cell in the developed world currently.
Right.
And so I knew her, and each World Sickle Cell Day, you know, they bring in professors, bring in everybody, just talk, but they don't really engage the media. So I walked up to her sometime, I think 2016, and I said, you know, we could do a lot more if we engage the media. And she said, okay, that's cool. And she took it up. Mm-hmm. And today, we've trained, in fact, we've built a whole network of journalists, both print, radio, TV, who report on sickle cell.
Right.
In fact, in the developed world, Nigeria has one of the highest number of reports that have come out on sickle cell.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Most of also have one of the highest numbers of cases.
Definitely.
Anyway.
That's why nobody will do it for us if we don't take it up
ourselves.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, but
Yeah.
I'd like you to hold that thought. We'll expatiate on that in just a moment. Right now, we're going to take on a short break so that we'll have a little breather in the studio. When we come back, we'll still be talking to Mr. Aro Leonard, who has a whole lot on the conversations today. Please stay with us. You're welcome back. Thank you for staying there. Glad you stayed on with us. It's still the conversations on Kaftan Television Network, and I'm Mikki Attah in the studio with the erudite Mr. Aro Leonard, who every time I speak to him, even on the break, I get to learn a little more about things that I never knew before, which I'm sure you would also be interested in. Okay, right now, I think we talked a little bit about sickle cell. We want to now delve into malaria, because he raised a valid point. It's actually we who are going to solve our own problems. Somebody asked one day a question, how come there are vaccines for all other endemic diseases around the world and not for malaria? That's a question for us to ask ourselves.
Well,
you're waiting for the person for whom malaria is not endemic for to come and find solution to your problems? Hell no. So what, like you said, what has been the actions you've taken in the area of malaria control, awareness and stuff like that? And have you been helped by this Bill Gates Foundation? Because they seem very, very, very interested in malaria issues.
Okay, let me say there are vaccines for malaria now.
Right,
that have just come in. They've just rolled out, so they'll be testing a couple of states.
Yes, Bielsa has joined, and which again, 2 states now.
Yeah, but the preventive aspect is where we should be focusing on.
Yes.
Economically, we don't even have the resources. Nigerians don't have the resources to buy drugs or go to the hospital. The government doesn't even have the resources to provide these things for citizens. We are facing a lot of challenges. So if we focus on prevention, then we'll get it right. And it's the media that can do that, when you support the media. Now, what I noticed that there's a lot of organizations. We have the National Malaria Elimination Program.
We do?
Yes. It's been on for so many years.
Wow.
They do a lot of work, honestly.
Okay.
They do a lot of work. Okay. We have all states as their state malaria elimination program. FCT has the FCT MEP malaria elimination program. There are so many of them, and supported by lots of international organizations, working in different parts. And some of the work they've been doing, like the seasonal malaria chemo prevention, is big grammar, but what it simply means is there are some regular malaria medicine that we take normally. There's a combination which they give to little children, under 5, and it helps them to resist malaria for a month. So they share that during the rainy season. It just ended now, that campaign. Now, the thing is that on my own, I noticed that a lot of the organizations that work on malaria, even the malaria elimination program itself, when they want to do activities, they just invite journalists, say, hey, come cover this activity. That way, it's just like I shared my training and the training we give. I will train people on thematic issues. I mentioned names of people who trained me. And even when we're training people, when we invite the Jide Ojos to this world, to the event, we also learn as trainers, you know, before you now start developing content. So you just say, come cover. No. Each organization, I'm saying this, and the government should please listen to me, I'm pleading, should have a strong strategy to train journalists on these kind of things that I've been talking about, that BBC Media Action used to do. International organizations shouldn't do it for us. We should have it as part of our DNA to train the media on everything we do, not just say, come cover ceremony. No. So I noticed that. So on my own, I started, like I said, you have to volunteer and do some things with my limited resources. I started training journalists. I've trained a couple of journalists on how to produce programs to tackle malaria. I even give them certificates, you know, and with the hope that some organizations will start seeing this and come into support. I supported a few organizations for the seasonal chemo prevention campaign. I've been doing that since last year. And honestly speaking, results have shown that just with that campaign alone, cases of malaria for children under 5 had reduced by about 70%.
Oh, that's so good to know.
But the funny thing is that because the media is not fully trained to do content constantly on this, a lot of people still don't know. And don't access these things.
I didn't even know about it.
You get it.
Yes. That is, I think that's mighty kudos. But I wanted to take you up on this, even though, I mean, you are like at the training level. You're not like at the policy implementation level. Have you noticed everything, like you said, seems ceremonial? So then you now call the media. For instance, the United Nations has already labeled December 1st of every year as World AIDS Day. So come December 1st, all are talking, even on the news, and everything will be about AIDS. By December 2nd, we've switched off. Completely until the next December 1st. So it's so ceremonial, event-driven, and should I say fire brigade approach. Like, what can we do in the meantime so that we sustain this, especially for HIV/AIDS? Because we can, well, I mean, nothing can be totally eliminated. Something that has hit the world, we can't like kick it out, I know. But if we were more, you know, hands-on about some of these things, we'll be able to get the reduction that we want by that 2030. We've already passed the year 2000. We've passed the year, you understand, we passed all those marks that we had set for ourselves. But 2030 to me seems attainable if we were all hands-on about it. And not by this approach of, oh, it's an event December 1st, I'll forget the next day. And especially HIV/AIDS, I want to say, because every other thing seems to cloud it down. When we had a lockdown, we forgot about it. Everything seems to give it a push down. So do you think, you know, we can do, what do you think we can do? Let me just say in a nutshell, because we're running out of time.
We can
actually make a streak to make we can do a lot.
It's just to develop media content.
Develop media content.
There's a lot of airtime. There's a lot of airtime that is being wasted.
True.
You know, apart from the training I talk for journalists, because if you don't get the right training, you're going to do programs that's going to mislead people. Okay. So you don't want to do that. So training, the media must be supported. The NBC must focus on training media. I've said it on national TV so many times. The NBC needs to do that. Media owners need to be compelled to train their staff. The government itself, all ministries, is not inviting media for ceremonial events. Invite us. I don't charge much. Invite us to train them on those thematic areas you're dealing with. For instance, I trained some staff, communication staff of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. You know, some time back, we've trained some other ministries like that. You know, you do that. Environment issues. Each year you have flooding every time. Why? People still do the same thing. So the Ministry of Environment come out, set up a budget as they are passing budget now, National Assembly, ensure that there's budget in every ministry to train journalists, not media event ceremony. I'm looking at the camera and say, not coverage. Train journalists on these thematic issues, bring the thematic experts, bring the journalistic experts to train them. But media organizations on your own, don't wait till it comes. You have that airtime. If you don't use it, it will go. And do you know that you would make more money as a media organization if you focus on development themes? We train media organizations on broadcast management and all that, and revenue generation. When you focus on development themes, apart from adverts you could get, you could also get support from all these development organizations that are all over the place. So that's what we will do. Engage more with the media, and I'm telling you the truth, you'll be surprised.
I want to be pleasantly surprised. Okay, yeah, you also say you do a little bit on, okay, let's talk a little bit, just a touch on the environmental aspect, because we're fast running out of time. And you seem very passionate about it. In fact, you whispered to me that your first degree was actually in geography. So what have you done for the environment? You did mention some of the unnecessary disasters we go through, like flooding and stuff.
Yes. Like I've been on a lot of, I've been on national TV and so many other stations to talk about the flooding.
This is national TV?
Exactly. And that's the funny thing. This is my first time here. So this is national TV, and I'm here again now. Because it's not even national TV, because in broadcasting there's now convergence, so you're all over the place. You're streaming live, you're on the internet. We are being seen on via satellites as far as Australia and everywhere right now. So it's international TV right now. When flooding comes, they'll say, oh, climate change. I'm saying this, Nigeria is so blessed. Now, because these media people have not been trained on these thematic issues, when you bring in these government officials and some other, and someone says climate change, you toe the line of climate change. So you wouldn't look at other issues that cause these things that are solvable, preventable by the ordinary man. So people will now look at the ordinary man and say, oh, I don't have any business with it. Flooding is not my fault. It's climate change.
Whereas you drank that sachet water and flung it into the gutter.
Exactly.
You ate that food in that styrofoam pack, which you're not supposed to, wrapped again in a black nylon bag and flung it right where you ate.
Exactly.
And the next rainfall pushed it out as well into the gutter. And as that accumulated, you caused the flooding.
Exactly. And then climate change. You see, even from primary school, they teach things around floodplain, because you see land by the river Benue that's nice breeze, nobody is doing, you go build your house there, then after you cry to government, things like that. There are lots of, so in Nigeria, God has so blessed us, we don't have real climate change issues here. If you even want to talk about climate change issues in Nigeria, you'll be talking about the coastal area in the Niger Delta. That's where the real issues are.
True.
Then maybe some part, just a small part of the far north where you have these desertification issues, coming in. Just a small part. Nigeria is blessed. We don't have any major climatic issue here. My master's degree is on environmental and resources planning. We are so blessed. But the issue is how we manage our resources. And that's what my training is on. And so that's why I was able to link that with the journalistic part of things and able to produce creative programs. People usually ask me, what's the relationship between your geography and environmental resources?
I was just going to ask you. So how did you delve into the journalistic aspect of it?
That is it.
How did
environmental
and
resources planning is development. Development is about helping people live better lives. Environment and resources planning is how you manage resources to help people live better lives. So it's the same thing. That's why one of the best ministers of information we've had in Nigeria, Professor Jerry Ghana, studied geography.
I hear you.
And it will shock you to note that during the Babangida era, Nigeria's representative, I think in World Health Organization, had a degree in medical geography. Here. So it gives you this, when you study that course, it gives you this broad knowledge of a lot of issues.
Like
a lot of issues.
View.
Exactly. So when you now mix communication skills to it, you are able to just, so that's why sometimes I share some things and people wonder. It's my geography background that helps me to be able to do all those things. So that is it. Rather than just say climate change, look at the other little things that we can do. You cut all the trees in my house. I have about 18 trees several others are still growing in my small 3-bedroom bungalow.
It
My
can't be that
friend
small. With 18
is
trees.
small. You don't need too much space to plant trees.
Right.
For instance, if I'm the government, I will make it mandatory. Everybody that is building a house must plant a tree. It's as simple as that. It's not to go do one ceremony and say tree planting campaign, spend billions. Just tell everybody, hey, they build this house. In Abuja here, they clear estates, they clear land to build estates. That should be banned. The FCT minister, if he's listening to me, nobody should clear land and build estates without planting trees there. That's what happened. See, I did my IT studying the Abuja master plan cover to cover in my 200 level.
Okay.
Doing my IT in the FCDA here. So I know the Abuja master plan.
Yes.
Abuja is the most planned city in the world.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
And
the greenery was spot on.
I'm telling you.
It's the same FCDA that you were talking about. They're the ones who ruined their own plan because they would now sell things. In fact, green areas now became areas for residential properties.
Exactly.
Even for businesses, shopping mall.
Exactly.
So you're the ones using your hand to cut your own self down.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, we that live in the environment are the ones worse off for it. So like you said, it's the media really that needs to engage, get people more aware, get people more interested. So they don't feel like, why should we have a park when I don't have a place to live? At the end of the day, you're going to have so much place to live, which is going to be all shanty, and then you're going to need
start falling sick, start getting cancer, breathing in bad air, then you say it's your people in the village.
Lifespan is shortening.
Exactly.
Like you said, is that witch? That my witch, that
village.
witch that's in the family. Whereas it's the life that you're living, the quality of your life is going down with every green tree you're cutting. And that is just what people are not aware of, like you said. So if there's anything I've learned today, it's that I am going to, I pledge, I'm going to volunteer to bring in some of these themes, even if it's not even relevant to that. I'm going to bring it, just throw it in there, because you never know what awareness you can create. For instance, like me, you've clicked my brain up. I can see there are themes I can inject.
Yeah.
You know, in such a way, a manner, like you said, it's not so boom, but it's there, and you get to know. I'm not going to say anymore. I won't say any more than that.
I'm glad for this, because I say I'm like a missionary to a lot of media organizations and other organizations for us to do this. So I'm really glad.
I've told you, if I'm the president, your national award will be secured and guaranteed. It's a pity they share them all to political office holders who in the first place perform underwhelmingly and even sometimes end up with the EFCC.
But it's the same media that praises them for doing some mediocre things or some normal things they should do, because we don't know. Okay?
We don't know better.
That is the thing. That is the thing. So if media knows, like I also, for instance, at the start of this road constructions in the FCT, when the moment it went into the supplementary budget, I, on my own, supported by my neighbor, when he saw that I was doing this, he decided to support me and funded training for several TV stations in the FCT, you know, about infrastructure reporting. You know, how this has come in the budget. How do you follow it up? How do you make sure that this project comes to pass? And I brought them to my area, and, you know, they were one of the projects where we did the training there. They saw, they experienced the bad roads to get to that place. I took them there with their cameraman and we trained them. Okay. Yeah, and of course, we gave them trans money and all that from our pocket. And they went back and did a couple of reports.
All right.
And before we knew what was happening,
graders had landed.
Exactly. And the road is motorable now.
Oh my goodness.
And that's the power of the media.
Absolutely.
And it takes nothing. It takes nothing.
Yeah.
And the politicians need to know this. That is when you get the praise. The people will praise you. You understand? So just do the right thing. Get the media to do the right thing, and you'll be surprised. Everybody will say, yeah, you're doing a good job.
You're right.
You know.
I totally agree with you, though. I've done a little bit of intervention, but mine was, it had to do with the networks. The networks are people's cane on people's backs and then draining your pockets. So I did a little bit of intervention there, and that worked like a magic wand.
I'm telling you.
I think I need to do some more of such.
If
Now
not,
you've told me to
if
do
not,
things
you find that there are
thematically.
so many things Nigerians are going through. Yes, you see, we have economic problems and all that, but you see, there's this Nigerian spirit. We can still smile. We still. That's why the whole of Africa the world wonders. What's up with these guys? You know, we can still smile, interact with everybody. We will still be together, united in this country, whether you like it or yes. That's the Nigerian spirit. Okay, so if the media is able to solve some of all these small things that affect us, you talked about this network. You don't have to wait for the government or anybody.
No.
If media could do programs and then get organizations to live up to their responsibility and all that, you find that we'll smile a lot more. And when you smile more, despite the fact you don't have enough money, you could think well, and you could be creative,
right,
and you could know how to generate income.
Right.
Right,
I totally agree with you on that. Okay, so what would be your final word? Because we've totally run out of time on the program. What would be your final word on I'm really, like I told you, the youth part of it was what really triggered me. So on your social
transformation,
what would be your last word on that aspect before I reluctantly let you go today?
The truth about it is that if you want to grow a nation, if you want to make any campaign to work, if you want to do anything, it's the youth, the young people. They are the ones to drive it. And the earlier you bring them in, the better. If we had not targeted the young people, HIV
would have killed us.
Exactly. So it's the same thing with politics, and that's what organizations like Yaga are doing with your Not Too Young to Run, even though I still need them to do a lot more, with really engaging media and doing this kind of content. We need a lot more.
Another one, though, in case you might want to work with them. They're Not Too Young to Perform.
Wow. Right. That's another beautiful one again. Okay. We have some, even the budget group, code. Yeah. They are all targeted at young people. And these were things we, like I said, supported then in BBC Media Action. Then in Tanzania, there's a program called Niambe. It's a youth, funky youth like flavor, but focusing on politics. And that's what led to the transformation, the change in Tanzania a couple of years ago. Even though the new president that came later, died and all that, but you know all that. But if you target the youth, they could drive it. When you talk about political campaigns, all these insults and fights, political fights on social media, it's the young people that are doing it. So once you get the buy-in of young people, they will push anything to any limit. So this is 25 years now that I have been training young people on my own. Wow. Since 1999, I go to the NYSC camp, train them on how to do this kind of content. A lot of them have become big broadcasters, international broadcasters. Some have won CNN Environment Journalist of the Year. That's Ugochi, for instance. And, so many of them. So when you do that, you share this vision with them at a young age, and they have a buy-in. They will not grow up to be that corrupt politician.
Yes.
They will know the right thing to do.
Right.
And that is what I do. So I want to encourage all organizations, the government, media, everybody, focus on young people. Right. Do programs. See, don't just have this your funny program that all you talk about is politics. Today, say, Tinubu said this, what's your take? No. Let's have programs specifically designed for young people, that would cause this transformation in their mind that we are requiring.
All right. Thank you very, very much. I cannot find anything that I disagree with you on. And like I said, I've learned a lot and I'm going to implement them, I promise you, especially on the thematic aspect so that we can, get people's minds also aware. There's nothing as good for me. I've always believed this maxim: knowledge is power. It's not money. If you know, then you can go for the money. So thank you Thank you very much, Mr. Aro Leonard. I hope when we call you again, like you promised, you'd also appear again on the program.
If you call me tomorrow, Seth, I will come.
Are you kidding me? Okay, but the conversations is once a week. So that's the size of our package today. Thank you very, very much for staying with us on the conversations today. It's been a wonderful time for me, and I hope it has been the same for you. Okay, so that has been the conversations, and I'm Mikki Attah saying thank you very much for watching. All right, until we come again, your way again next time.